Mr. Speaker, there's a little thing called cause and effect. And the cause that the leader of the opposition is missing.
Since he took office, 86,000 more Canadians are unemployed. We have the second highest unemployment in the G7. This is all the result of out-of-control government spending and taxes. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. And now the Parliamentary Budget Officer rates his deficit, says, quote, very alarming, stupefying, shocking, unsustainable. If you don't change, this is done. Something is going to break. We are at the edge of a cliff. Those are the words of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. When will he stop his out-of-control spending? When he's over the edge of the cliff?
Here. Mr. Speaker, there's a little thing called cause and effect. And the cause that the leader of the opposition is missing is the U.S. tariffs. The U.S. tariffs that are hitting steel, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting lumber, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting our auto sector. That's why we need to build this country strong. That's why we're getting spending under control. That's why we're going to spend less to invest more. I believe in this country, Mr. Speaker.
And it goes against the entire narrative of Carney that he is the man with a plan. That's why he told Canadians, and it's why he won this last election. They believed he had a plan. And in fact, he used it as an attack point. You know, a plan beats no plan. He has no plan now. He doesn't have a fiscal plan. Now he was elected leader of the party in March. You know, he could have given direction even before the election on what he wants his budget to look like. He had a costed platform. Why is there no budget? I find it absolutely mind-boggling that they're doing this, that not giving anything, any kind of a statement.
But what about if it was like, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this too, right? You know, when you guys won government in 2006 with Harper, he was sworn in early February, budget came in May. So if you give like a financial update now and a budget in September, you know what I mean? But it doesn't even seem like there's going to be a budget at all. It's going to be an economic state. A fez, your favorite thing.
Right. So look, the Liberals have always been trying to figure out how to budgets balance themselves. Just don't have a budget balance. Look at that.
Right.
No, it's absurd. And even going to September, I think, is not acceptable. You look at the 2006 when Harper came in, that was a whole transformed government.
I get it.
And they had a number of months to do it, and they did it. Carney became leader of the party in March. He was prime minister in March. He could have started giving direction, and he just had a fully costed platform. Former, again, central banker, Mr. Finance guy, worked at the Department of Finance, knows the ins and outs of that department. He was one of the guys that helped us do our budget in 2008 when we did it. So it just makes no sense to me. In 2011, we had an election, and a few weeks later, we brought in the budget. Now, it was the same government, same prime minister, but it makes no sense, and it goes against the entire narrative that he set up, that he was the man.
After saying last month it would remove all counter tariffs on U.S. goods covered under CUSMA, new reporting from the CBC has found out that the Liberal government quietly dropped more of those tariffs than advertised. The CBC's Kate McKenna broke the story, and she joins me now. So, Kate, walk us through what you found out here.
Well, David, we all remember last month when Mark Carney announced that the government was going to be dropping some retaliatory tariffs in order to kind of push ahead with trade negotiations with the United States. So at the time, the Prime Minister said that he was essentially going to be matching what the United States was doing to us, which is to say counter tariffs were going to be dropped on CUSMA-compliant goods.
Right.
So goods that were compliant with the existing free trade agreement, implying that if a good wasn't compliant with CUSMA, then it would be tariffed. Take a listen to what he said at the time.
The Canadian government will now match the United States. by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Now, almost a month later, we've learned that's actually not what happened. Canada has removed all counter tariffs, regardless of whether a good was CUSMA compliant, except for, of course, the sectoral tariffs on steel, aluminum, and auto. And they never actually communicated that to the public. We found it by reading an order in council, which was never publicized and required me to ask a number of questions from the government. So this was not something that they ever told the public. Now, there might be good reasons for why the government did it. I spoke with a couple of trade lawyers who told me that it would have been extremely costly to enforce. It would have required hiring more people at the border. The amount of money, that revenue that was generated probably would have been almost negligible because most goods, if you do the paperwork, are CUSMA compliant, right? So one trade lawyer I spoke with said that, this was admirable bureaucratic restraint. However, it's not what the government said that they were doing. It's not what Mark Carney said he was going to do, and the reality of it is they implied that Canada and the U.S. were doing the same things to each other, and in reality, that's not actually what happened. So we heard from Pierre Poilievre today. He posted on social media saying this is another elbows down lie. Now, in a statement, the finance minister's office says they do what they do because they want to adapt their trade policy, both to get a new deal done and also to help Canadians the best that they can.
Right. That was the argument, though, for dropping the CUSMA compliant tariffs. There's been no broader explanation on the balance there, right? Because he says matching, but it's 25% on steel and aluminum versus 50%. But the explanation for why they dropped the non-CUSMA compliant goods from tariffs is just to advance trade. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They told me they told me that it's true what we're reporting, but they didn't go into detail as to why in their response to me.
Okay, all right. Kate McKenna, the CBC's Kate McKenna with that exclusive reporting. Thanks so much.
Deficit spending is up almost 100% since this prime minister took office. And as for investment, it has fallen. In fact, $50 billion of net investment has left since he took office. And yet he repeats the same promises the Liberals have been making for a decade. They said their deficits would lead to more investment. Since they took office, investment is down by 10%, the worst investment record in the G7. In fact, with $600 billion more debt under this government, investment has fallen. How much more debt would they have to add on the backs of Canadians to reverse this disastrous result?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, it's time for a little fiscal lesson for the Leader of the Opposition. Strongest credit rating in the world, AAA, S&P, and Moody's. Lowest deficit in the G7. Lowest debt level in the G7. Lowest net debt to GDP in the G7. Biggest potential in the G7. This side of the House believes in Canada. Come join us.
Highest household debt to income ratio in the entire G7. Let's expand on that. According to Statistics Canada, as of 2020, Canadian household owed approximately 185% of the disposable income, significantly higher than the G7 average of around 125%. I can tell you that the major chunk is your home. For comparison, UK is 151%, United States 102%, Italy 90%. StatsCan goes on further stating that Canada's economy is more vulnerable to financial shocks due to their reliance on the elevated levels of household borrowing compared to other advanced economies. Let me repeat that. We are the most indebted people in the wealthiest countries in the world. And it's not just mortgages, it's car loans, credit cards, lines of credit, and all of that gets more expensive overnight when rates shoot up. Economies are supposed to run like a well-oiled engine, but this one, it's sputtering, leaking, and no one's pulling over to check under it.
Mr. Speaker, I know that sometimes it gets heated in this place, and recently I said that this Prime Minister was just as irresponsible with money as Justin Trudeau, and I now realize that that was unfair to Justin Trudeau. In reality, he has increased the deficit by almost 70% above what Justin Trudeau left behind. And now the Parliamentary Budget Officer describes This Prime Minister's deficit's as alarming, stupefying, unstable, unsustainable. If you don't change, this is done, and something is going to break. How is it even possible for this Prime Minister to be more fiscally incompetent than the drama teacher?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. But he believes you.
I can't imagine, Mr. Speaker, I can't imagine why it gets heated in the House with language like that.
Yeah, exactly.
The former Prime Minister. This government is conducting a comprehensive spending review. This government is building houses. This government is building projects in the national interest. This government is building Canada strong.